following message is being transmitted at the request of the Boundless PodTrap movie review and the guys of the BPT. What you are about to hear contains spoilers to movies. If you don't want to hear these spoilers, please disengage your listening device at this time. If you can't handle those with a possible differing view on a movie, you may also want to disengage your listening device at this time. Stay tuned for a movie review that only the guys at the Boundless PodTrap can give you.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
So, there was a movie that we were all supposed to watch, and it airs 11 minutes. It was pretty short. I don't know why you guys were recommending me to watch this, but it's called One Cunt of the
Dead. Justin, no.
What?
That was, you added an extra letter. One cut of the dead.
One Cut of the Dead?
Yeah. We don't, y'all don't say that.
Oh, well, I watched the wrong thing.
Oh.
There's a lot of zombies in it, but
I'm sorry.
I gotta Google this movie now. This is going off of my Netflix queue.
On Netflix. There we go.
Matthew Broderick was in that one.
So yeah, no, One Cut of the Dead. It was actually a pretty good movie, I thought. When I first saw it on the Shudder app, I watched maybe like 5 minutes of it, with Crystal, the missus, the wifey, and we were just like, side-eyeing each other like, really? Yeah, on the Shudder app, it has like 3 different streaming, kind of like a TV, their own little television type of thing. You can just tune into wherever they're playing it on that. So yeah, what I caught of that was just like boring. It wasn't catching me. I didn't start from the beginning, and I was like, nope. And then maybe 2 weeks later, a mutual friend, posted something about how awesome the movie was, and I'm like, really? And then you got in on that, and you're like, that was, or were you saying like, is it worth it or something like that, or should you check it out? Or
No, I had checked it out.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
After that conversation, I was like, all right, well, maybe I'll give it another shot. And then that was our homework for.
Well, Lonnie's the one that told me about this movie, and I was surprised that it was 2017 that it came out. I was thinking it was something that just came out. And so I subscribed to the Shudder channel app, whatever you want to call it, which has probably been the best $5 a month I've ever spent, because I've been watching a lot of movies on there, more so than Netflix or Prime Video and all that stuff. But I was very close to turning it off, because the way Lonnie had explained this movie to me was more of like, I thought that, I knew the premise of it. And, this is a spoiler alert for those of you that haven't seen it and don't want to know about it. Maybe skip ahead from this or pause it and come back after you watch it, because there's going to be some spoilers. I had thought the way Lonnie explained it was this director that was making a zombie movie, but he wanted it to be real. So he did something to bring real zombies in and attack the actors and stuff. And so I'm thinking the director of this in the movie, the character that was the director in the movie, was going to be like this villain. And so when I started watching it, and it's like, okay, they're making a movie, and then it's just like, oh, here comes what's supposed to be this real zombie. I'm like, oh my God, this is hokey as shit. And I was so tempted to turn it off, but I'm like, nah, I'm going to give it a try. I'm going to start doing that, except for the movie It, the remakes of It. I'm not going to do that for those. I'm not giving them a try, but I am so glad I stuck it out, because that movie, fucking brilliant.
And I have an affinity for terrible horror movies. Like, I'll sit through pretty much anything horror-wise just to laugh it off. And that movie, the first 30 minutes of the movie is a typical bad horror movie. So I was actually getting into the bad horror movie aspect of it and thinking, well, if this is what it is, at least it's good fun. I'm having a good time laughing at the bad effects in the bad movie. But then the movie completely 360s on you, and you find out it's supposed to be bad. And
it turns you around and then fucks you over the couch.
Right, right. You find out the movie, and like Jeremy said, major spoiler, you find out that it's supposed to be a one-cut movie that's on television, and you start learning it from the director's point of view. Like, the movie's basically broke into thirds. The first third is the terrible movie. You're seeing it all. The second third is you meet the director, you meet his family, you see the process of him meeting the cast and kind of learning, what he's up against. And then the last third of the movie is him literally making the movie and all the catastrophes that go along with making a movie.
And the behind the scenes of it.
Right. But it's the whole one cut of him making the one cut movie. And it's literally from a filmmaker's point of view. And that's why I gave it to Jeremy to watch. It is fucking fantastic.
It is.
And there's so many little funny quirks that happen. Like, one of the cast members is just piss drunk.
Yeah.
And he's one of the zombies. So he's having to pick this drunk zombie up and physically carry him from his different points. And they're showing it like the first section of the movie, this zombie's like a shambling mess of a zombie, like what you'd imagine a Romero zombie to be. But then you realize he's just pissed drunk in the third section.
Uh-huh.
So he's having to carry him from point to point, and literally they're dragging him. And when you see him with blood and what running out of his mouth, they're literally dumping cups of blood in his mouth and just pushing him through a window rather than him jumping through a window. It's just a fantastic.
It is.
Right.
They thought of everything for that movie. And as a filmmaker, you should watch this movie because you would appreciate it.
Oh, yeah.
As somebody that's just a fan of film, that's not necessarily a filmmaker or been a part of filmmaking, it gives you an insight on what it's like to make a movie, like what goes into these scenes and stuff like that. It might be exaggerated a little bit because normally when you make a movie, you're not doing it live in one take.
Right.
But you're still seeing how some of the effects could be done.
Right. And how it all goes wrong.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. And that it just kept you entertained. And one thing I will say is, it's a foreign film, so there's subtitles. So
Right.
it's not in English.
Unless you speak Japanese.
Yeah. But I mean, and normally I hate subtitles in movies. I mean, I watch a lot of foreign films, but they're not my favorite because it's just like, I feel like I'm distracted by the text that's on the bottom of the screen. It's like I'm just reading and not really watching what's going on. But if a movie is written and filmed well, it flows hand in hand. You can read, and I mean, sometimes you don't even have to read. You kind of know what they're saying. And this is one of those films where it's just like, it was perfect.
Right.
And just all the things that go wrong. The one thing I didn't quite get, and maybe I missed something at that point, was the director's wife in the movie. Why did she all of a sudden turn like evil and like try to like
That was
sabotage?
She gets lost in her characters.
Yeah.
So she, and everything was already messing up. So she was just already taken over her character.
Because there was a point where I did have to go to the bathroom and I didn't pause it, and I think I missed something. But I was just like, why is she trying to purposely sabotage this thing? But
one of the producers says, why did she quit acting? And the daughter was like, well, she gets lost in her characters and has actually ended up breaking somebody's arm.
I didn't see that part, so I missed that part. So, but I will say too, the first third, when that part ended and it did like the crane shot of the girl, and then the credits were rolling, I'm like, oh, is this movie over? I was like, did Lonnie suggest, was it a short film? And I just didn't.
I did the same thing. You click on it to see how much is left, and there's literally an hour left on the scroll bar.
Yeah.
You're like, well,
what the fuck?
What the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
It's just such a masterpiece. And another spoiler, the director is actually cast as the director in the movie. So he goes from being this struggling director, have to deal with this cast that he's never really had to deal with before, and he's struggling with, and they're not behaving themselves, and they're not being professionals. And now he gets to go and be in his own movie where he gets to be an angry and asshole director to this cast. And he's living it. He's loving that moment, and he's so into that character. It's the first joy you see in this actor.
He bows down to pretty much everybody and just very timid.
Yeah, very stoic.
Yeah, and then he also loses himself in this character, and I was like, "Wow, right on, man! Like,
Right.
stand your ground, finally." And like, they were going off of the script, and it was challenging on all ends, I guess.
Right.
I loved the director in the movie when, like, just I mean, it's one take, and like all the shit's going on. And I just like how he just like appears he just comes out of nowhere and he's like, action! It's just like,
keep filming.
But and I'm gonna probably butcher his name, but the actor that played that was Takayuki Hamatsu, I think is his name. Fucking brilliant. Like, he is an amazing actor. It's the only thing I've seen him in. I don't know. I haven't really looked at his IMDb to see what else he's in, but man, that guy is...
seen him in something else, but I can't recall.
I don't think anybody else could have played that part.
Yeah.
He just, you know, and like I said, Lonnie, when he explained it to me, I thought he was going to be the bad guy in the movie. So it's just like, oh, he's so lovable in the beginning here. And then it's just like this first part of the second of the part of the all three parts or whatever. And the second part, you know, in my mind, I'm like, this guy's going to turn into an asshole. He's going to be a bad guy here. And it's just like, man, I don't know that I necessarily hate this guy. He's so nice and lovable, but turns out, I mean, he's nice and lovable the whole way through the movie.
Right.
And
he's doing it for, I guess, his family for the most part. It's like when I approached this movie, when I finally went back and watched it from the beginning, it was a slow start and it was like 37 minutes of like this actual film. And believe it or not, this is not wasn't really made to be filmed. It was a project, like these actors actually had to pay to be in this film. They were doing like an acting class, and then they just made it there and then submitted it, and it came out really well. After finally finishing that first 37 minutes and then going into like, you know, a month before, you know, he was met with to make this movie, and he thought it was just a joke. It's like one take, you know, like you can't do that.
All right.
But you get to see like a more, you know, open the window to his life and like how he's kind of struggling just to be a filmmaker, doing the stuff that he is doing already to challenge this. And his daughter has a crush on a popular actor who is actually cast in this movie. So it kind of gets the whole family involved on this.
And his daughter wants to be involved in the filmmaking process and stuff. And she steps in at the end. And I mean, that last shot, again, spoiler, the last shot they have planned is like a crane shot on top of this building. And they accidentally, when his wife is going crazy, knocks it off the roof. And they're like, shit, what do we do? Well, the daughter thinks...
does a gymnast pyramid.
Yeah, she has them all do a gymnast pyramid, and she's on the very top, and they hold the shot.
How they frame that, a little pre-shadowing or foreshadowing from a earlier image of when his daughter was like, 7 years old, holding a camera on his shoulders. And then it finishes off at that scene, you know, like
kind of an emotional thing there.
Right.
I was like, it's like, it's this movie is labeled under a horror comedy. I mean, like, I wouldn't say it's horror. I would say it has horror themes, but it's a comedy, like a family movie
dark
type of
comedy
thing.
at best. Yeah. It's definitely a good coming of age story as well. Like, if you eliminate the horror aspect of it and you eliminate the comedy aspect of it, deep in its bones, it is a nice coming of age story as well between the father and the daughter and the mother as well. There's so many little undertones of like that family element of the daughter wanting to go off on her own, but the mother and the father kind of wanting to clip the wings and let her go, but still being protective to her. So
it's like even between, all the relationships between the mother, father, daughter, it's like there's not as much cohesion. I mean, they live civilly together. The daughter is always trying to do her own thing. The mother has concerns about what she's doing. She's a little bit strict as far as her directing style.
Yeah.
So when the father shows up and sees like what she's doing, it's like what she's trying to do or accomplish, they all get involved together on this one project that was pretty much handed into his lap, and they kind of make something beautiful, a little family project.
And let's not forget the old lady that plays like the executive producer at the TV station. She had a small part, but I thought she was hilarious.
So fucking adorable.
Yeah, she reminded me of what's that actress's name on that CSI show? CSI NCIS whatever with
forensic
LL Cool J, that little lady that wears the glasses and stuff. She kind of reminds me of like the Asian version of her. But
she reminds me of every Jewish bubby around the planet, like a Japanese version of it, just being like, "Oh, you're so cold, have a sweater."
Like I said before on Facebook, you know, I gave this movie a 10 out of 10 stars. I think it's probably one of the most brilliant movies I've seen in a long time.
Absolutely, 10 out of 10 for sure.
If you haven't seen it, if you have Shudder, watch it on there.
You can get it on Netflix as well.
Is it on Netflix now?
Is streaming it. Yeah, I think it's like $4 to rent it.
Yeah, it's well worth it if you like those kind of films. I mean, if you know, I think it's something you'd like. Again, it's subtitled, but it's not really that big of a deal with this movie.
Personally, for me, I kind of grew up on subtitle movies, watching a lot of Asian, Hong Kong flicks and stuff. That was my go-to back in the day. IMDb ranks this at a 7.7, and Rotten Tomatoes gives it 100% on the tomato meter and 82% on the audience score. So
it's
it just proves that people don't have a fucking clue what a good movie is. It's the same people who put like...
Those are relatively high. I mean, it's not mediocre.
And the fact that it's been out for 3 years now. And
well, it came out in Japan in 2017. The States didn't get it till 2019.
Yeah, they hold on to it for like 2 years before it was...
Yeah, the States didn't get it till last year. So it's still relatively a new movie for us.
Yeah. So one cut of the dead, not one cunt of the dead. Don't pull it. Don't pull it, Justin.
You can Google that if you want to. I would recommend doing it in your incognito mode on your computer.
I didn't find it to be everything's censored, so it's like...
Well, Lonnie here Googled it, one cunt of the dead, and there's a picture of Lucille Ball. So, I'm just kidding. Her and Ricky Ricardo. So yeah, that was a good movie. That's something else that we're going to try to do here is we're going to watch a movie and do movie reviews on this podcast.
You're like, yep, I watched it. Next segment.
So if you have watched this movie, when this is posted up, comment and link what you thought of this movie. Let us know. And if there's any other movies out there that you think that we should take a look at that are kind of like this movie, so I got like the hiccups all of a sudden, let us know and we can possibly do that as a segment where we all watch it.
Oh, and in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
This concludes our broadcast day. Click.